Tarble and Piccolo's time in the chamber had stretched on for a few more months after Tarble had finally managed to become a Super Saiyan, and they'd both grown much stronger in that time. When they entered the chamber, Piccolo had to hold back considerably in order to avoid killing Tarble, and now he had to give it his all to fight him. As for Tarble himself, he'd more or less caught it with Vegeta. Vegeta was still stronger, but it wasn't a wide gap. If Vegeta was a 10, Tarble was a 9. Piccolo being able to keep up with Tarble of course means he is also stronger. He isn't too far behind the Saiyans in terms of power. Tarble and Piccolo both have to give it their all during their training in order to keep up. Tarble had managed 3rd grade Super Saiyan, but Piccolo was quick to point out the flaws in the form, so like Goku and Vegeta, Tarble instead chose to focus on mastering Super Saiyan, a goal he had achieved by the time their time in the chamber had come to an end. He had also completed his energy barrier technique. They weren't impenetrable, but they were pretty close. As the pair left the chamber, they would notice Vegeta and Trunks waiting for them. Trunks had decided to take Goku's advice when he said the time chamber probably wouldn't help much anymore, but his father ignored Goku, heading into the chamber by himself. He'd been planning on doing it anyway, but seeing how Tarble had almost caught up to him, that more or less cinched it. "Congratulations on becoming a Super Saiyan, Tarble! You're only a year late," Vegeta mocked his brother, who didn't seem to rise to the challenge. Supposedly, while they were gone, Goku had gone to Namek and grabbed that Namekian kid he'd met when they fought Frieza. Piccolo decided to stay to show Dende around the lookout, so Tarble left with Trunks. "So, do I call you Uncle, or is your name fine?" "Whichever you prefer." Trunks would nod as the pair flew down Karin's tower. "Well, Tarble, would you come with me to Jiro's lab? I want to have another look around to see if there's anything we can use against Cell. Jiro mentioned he had a self-destruct, though he may have been lying." Remember, they hadn't destroyed the lab yet, since Jiro was there to distract them. "Alright, but I know someone who might be able to help us with that. Follow me." Before they could head to the lab, Tarble led Trunks back to Jingle Village, where Android 8 had been looking after Kyo. Tarble was typically the one looking after his daughter. Since Suno was basically the mayor of the village, she was often too busy. But while he wasn't here, they'd managed to get 8 to babysit her. And from Tarble's perspective, he hadn't seen her in a year. Kyo couldn't talk yet, but she still seemed happy to see Tarble. And she seemed intrigued by Trunks. "Sorry, who's this?" Trunks seemed a little confused. "Chio, my daughter, which makes her your cousin." "Really? She doesn't exist in my time." "Well, that makes sense. I never would have come to Jingle Village if it weren't for your warning, so I never would have met Suno." Trunks smiled as he looked down at his infant cousin. At least something good had come from his trip to the past. "Wait, why did you come here after I warned you about the androids?" "I asked Goku what he knew about the Red Ribbon Army, and he brought me here. This is Android 8. Trunks seemed immediately guarded around the large man, but it was only momentarily. He was an android, yes, but he was clearly living in peace. "Is this who you wanted me to meet?" Android 8 didn't seem all that strong. "No. 8, are you going to be okay with Kyo for a short while?" "Of course." 8 would take Kyo from Tarble before Tarble took off with Trunks following him. "He lives a short ways from the village, but it shouldn't take us too long to get there." After a few moments of flying, Tarble and Trunks would come to a small cabin owned by Dr. Flap, who of course recognized Tarble. "Trunks, this is Dr. Flap. He used to be Jiro's lab assistant, although he was working under duress. If Flap didn't work for them, they'd kill everyone in Jingle Village. He did the majority of the work building Android 8, and he gave me pointers about how to fight the androids, though I was too weak to use them." "Nice to meet you, young man." Flap would shake Trunks' hand. "Now, what do you want?" "Well, I was hoping you'd accompany Trunks and I to Jiro's lab. I figured you may understand his technology better than either of us." "Of course, I'll do what I can." Once he agreed to come along, they'd take off, with Tarble carrying Flap. The first thing Trunks did was kill the juvenile Cell before it could become a threat, before allowing Flap to go through Jiro's computer. He would easily guess Jiro's password, Vomi, the name of Jiro's wife. "Do you think Cell sensed me destroying that?" Trunks looked to the ladder leading out to the lab, looking for any sign of movement. "If he did, I doubt he cares. If he wins, he's destroying the planet, right? He'd take it out along with the planet." Flap was going through the files on Jiro's computer, specifically the ones on Cell. "Jiro wasn't lying. Cell does have a self-destruct mechanism. No surprise there. Jiro is as paranoid as he is brilliant." "Can we use it?" "I think I should be able to build a detonator." "Can you have it done by the Cell games?" 3 days. Flap would answer before printing out a copy of the information. Since they were done here, they'd destroy Dr. Jiro's lab before heading back to Jingle Village. They would drop Flap off at his home before heading back to the main village. By now it was pretty late, so Tarble would just tell Trunks to stay the night, since they had a spare room. Trunks would mainly spend time with Kyo, getting to know his cousin a little better, or well, as much as he could. She was a baby. "So you came here because you wanted to find an edge against the androids, but why did you stay?" "I don't know." Tarble genuinely didn't. At first it was to easily stay in contact with Dr. Flap, but I enjoyed my time here, and I was needed to help around the village. And now we probably couldn't manage without you. Suno walked in, finally getting home. She'd managed to calm people's fears about Cell, or at least as best she could. People were scared of course, but all they could do was have faith in Goku and the others. Tarble would introduce Trunks to Suno, and they would spend the rest of the evening just talking. Trunks hadn't had the opportunity to just relax like this since he was a very young child. It was sort of difficult to adjust. In the morning, he'd head back to Capsule Corp to see his mother, leaving Tarble at Jingle Village. They wouldn't see each other again until the Cell games, though Tarble would ask Trunks not to tell anyone else about the detonator. He knew Vegeta would have an issue with using something like that. He didn't really care what his older brother thought, he just didn't want the argument. When they all met up, Tarble could tell that Goku had been right. Going into the time chamber for the second time hadn't done much for Vegeta. He was still basically as strong as he had been. Once everyone had arrived, Cell simply waited in the ring to see who challenged him first. Hercule still shows up like in the original and challenges Cell to a fight, and like in the original it doesn't last very long. Which means it's Goku's turn to fight Cell. Since Tarble could barely follow the fight, he couldn't tell who was winning, and it was safe to say he wouldn't be able to beat Cell. Maybe keep him busy if it came to it, but he wouldn't win. Apparently neither could Goku as he gave up, which prompted Tarble to step in, holding up the detonator Flap had built. Cell! You know what this is, right? Cell would fly downwards, landing a few steps from Tarble before nodding. I do, and if you're dumb enough to threaten me with it, it means I know more about it than you. Yes, press that button and I'll explode, but I'll take out this entire planet with me. You're bluffing. Oh, am I? Then press it. Cell knew that he wouldn't. Even if Tarble did think he was lying, he'd planted a seed of doubt. Either press the button or stop threatening me. There really isn't a third option here.
Just press it, don't worry.
Tarble heard a voice in his head. Was he losing it?
It's me, King Kai. Even if Cell is right and he does take out the planet with him, I can tell the Namekians to bring the Earth back.
Tarble still felt as if it was the wrong thing to do, but as Cell saw Tarble's hand move towards the button, Cell would fire a death beam through the remote, destroying it. The beam also tore a hole in Tarble's arm. Now then, if we are done with distractions, it's time for you all to say goodbye. Since Goku had given up, Cell assumed he had won, but Goku interrupted him, telling him that Gohan would be the one to fight him. Before that though, he throws Cell a sensu bean, much to the chagrin of everyone present. Tarble especially. Even if Goku was right and Gohan could beat Cell, he knew Gohan wouldn't want to kill him. He'd seen how much Gohan regretted killing Nappa. It wasn't like he could stop them now though, and as Gohan's fight with Cell began, Tarble would realize that Gohan was at least as strong as Goku, possibly even stronger. Just in case, he would take a sensu bean from Krillin. If Gohan did lose, perhaps he could take out Cell while he was exhausted. Goku, however, declined the offer since he wasn't really injured, just a little tired, and he had full confidence Gohan could beat Cell. Eventually, the subject of Gohan's hidden potential would come up. This intrigued Cell, who was eager to bring it out, trying to goad Gohan into losing his temper. 16 would still try to self-destruct, and it still wouldn't work, leading to Cell destroying the android. Since Gohan didn't seem to be getting very angry, he would create the Cell Juniors. Each one was almost as powerful as Cell himself. Before Goku could take a sensu bean, Cell destroyed the bag, meaning he was still worn out and only people capable of keeping up with them were Tarble, Trunks, Vegeta, and Piccolo, but even they couldn't win. It was essentially a stalemate. Tarble threw up an energy barrier around himself as well as the humans and the injured Goku. Vegeta and Trunks both didn't need his help, and Piccolo wasn't about to give up on this fight yet. Now, this got a rise out of Gohan, and to try and push him further, Cell would order the Cell Juniors to kill everyone, just as Hercule threw 16's head towards Gohan. Like in the original, 16 would tell Gohan to fight for those he loves, before being destroyed by Cell. Gohan would transform into a Super Saiyan 2 before destroying the Cell Juniors. There's a slight difference here though. Gohan knows about Cell's self-destruct, so he isn't so willing to toy with Cell. He knew he'd likely try to blow himself up if he thought he couldn't win. All the group could do was watch in awe as the young boy easily dominated Cell, who was, until a moment ago, thought to be unstoppable. Tarble was slightly bemused by what he was watching. He'd basically just gotten Super Saiyan and it already seemed to be obsolete. After hitting Cell in the stomach and causing him to throw up Android 18, he would decide to finish things quickly. Since Cell had lost his perfection, self-destruct would likely be his next move. So, before he could, Gohan would destroy the android with a full power Masenko, meaning there is no super perfect Cell, and Goku lives. Once Gohan had recovered, they'd use the Dragon Balls to bring back those killed by Cell. Trunks would leave for the future, but Tarble and Vegeta still weren't really on speaking terms, though Tarble knew better than to expect Vegeta to try to talk to him. Maybe he was being a bit stubborn, but he wasn't going to make the effort if Vegeta wasn't willing to. Why should he have to extend the olive branch, especially since he'd done absolutely nothing wrong? Even so, the world entered a period of peace, even if the relationship between the royal siblings was broken beyond repair. And that seems like a good place to stop for now. How will things change with Goku alive in this timeline? How will this affect the Buu saga? Will Vegeta and Tarble ever reconcile? Find out next time. Leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on this video. If you're enjoying this series, maybe consider subscribing. But that's all from me. Have a good day.